Where's America podcast? We got the world champion Jiu Jitsu belt, world champion of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yes. Well, I'm a Masters World Champion at every colored belt so far. And I just recently was issued my black belt after winning Masters Worlds at Brown.
Sick. And this champion here is named Ron Little, aka Shorty. And I met him when I was working on the rigs. We became friends. He was the tool push for our rig, and now we're here. And you were, because I think I met you when you were a world champion at a purple belt.
I had I'd won it the prior year at blue belt, and I was on my first year of purple belt when we met. Yeah.
So just for everyone to know, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you first start with white belt, which you won world champion. Then you go to blue belt.
Yeah,
you won that.
Blue belt.
Won twice at blue belt. Then you got purple belt. Won purple belt. Brown belt. You won brown belt. And I think when you won brown belt, you got promoted to.
Got promoted to my black belt. Yes.
And that's a big statement.
That's a huge accomplishment in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, most people never make it past blue belt. Like, most people that start Jiu-Jitsu will quit at blue belt. It gets too tough. It's a long process. Like, it took me almost 12 years to get my black belt of competing and training as often as I can, almost every day. It's like a 12-year process to get to black belt. And some people, will never get there. So it's a huge accomplishment. There's probably only 1.01% of the world that have a black belt.
I think that's like one of the things I want to like kind of say here, because I think people when they start anything, they always think of the destination. It's like, I'm going to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and get a black belt, right? And I think because I kind of had that when I was younger. It's like, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to become a master in a year, right? But what I kind of noticed over the time, it's like, it's not the destination. It's just the journey.
Yeah.
It's just all the hours you put in. And I think when you start, you're like, this is what I'm going to do. And then you get to a point where you like dip and you're like, man, this is really bloody hard. Like this is going to take a lot longer than I thought. And then once you like grasp that, you go back up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this just because I love doing it. Yeah. I love the people I'm doing it with. Explain like the journey instead of the destination to get to the black belt.
Well, it's basically one of them things where you've got to fall in love with it. It's a very difficult thing. It's very humbling. You get beat up every day. You struggle. It's hard. Some days you feel like, man, I can't learn this. I'm never going to get good at this. And then other days you go to the gym, you feel good, and everything's clicking. You're firing on all cylinders, right. And you get that passion and love. But it's that struggle and that difficulty, and everybody banding together in your gym and your culture of jiu-jitsu that I loved. Everybody just gets together, and everybody wants to help everybody to achieve that person's goal, whatever it may be. Some people are in it to be world champions. Some people are in it just to learn a little bit of self-defense. Some people are in it, just to enjoy the fitness aspect of it and just the camaraderie of being in a gym and being a part of something like that. So everybody's got their own journey, and it's like I said, to reach the black belt level is a serious struggle for a lot of people because it takes so long. Like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
it's a long time because it's usually 10 years, right?
It's a minimum of 10 years for somebody, and that's for somebody that's exceptional at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it takes a minimum of 10 years to reach that black belt level. So that's a huge commitment to a lot of people. Like, how many people put 10 years of their life into an extracurricular sport or an activity that they just enjoy?
I know a few people.
Yeah, like a handful.
Yeah,
like it's a tough grind. It's like it's hard on your body. It's taxing. It's something you have to do on a regular basis, or you're not going to be good at it. So for somebody that's a part timer that likes to go to the gym once a week and do it, is not going to get good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. Like my professor always tells me, consistency is key. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So, and it's just like anything. It's like the more rounds you put in on the soccer pitch, the better you're going to get. The more, time you put in shooting pucks at a net in the basement when you're a kid, you're going to get better at shooting pucks. It's just the way it is. The more reps, the more time you put in, the better you're going to get at something.
100%. So, yeah, that's kind of the gig is that 10-year commitment. Now, another thing that I really noticed, like just for me, is there's training alone, and then there's training with your buddies. And I find there is nothing that pushes me harder. Because right now I got a buddy of mine, and we boulder, we rock climb in Edmonton, and there's different grades, right? And we're going to like the impossible grade. And if he wasn't there, there would not be that enticing goal to get there, because it's a lot funner when you're with a crew and you meet these pinnacles, you know, because you kind of work together to achieve them, and you always have your buddy there pushing you. It's just like, yo, man, you know what we got to do? We got to keep climbing. We got to do another half an hour. We got to push it a little further. Like if we want to get to here, like we're here now, but if you want to get to here, we got to push.
You got somebody lifting you up and saying, yes, we can do this. If we work together, like we can do this. I'll show you what I'm thinking we should do. I've got a plan saying, if I'm going to take this route to get up that wall, he's like, well, if you take this, it's going to be a little tough to get your leg there. You'll be like, oh, I see that. So if we go this way, you work together.
With the jiu-jitsu, do you have like a companion that keeps pushing you? It's like, shorty, let's go one more round. Let's spar one more time.
You always got those people in the gym that become close people. You like to compete against. You like to roll against. You know, they're similar size, similar weight. You always have a real competitive back and forth with them. You win some, you lose some, but it's always that give and push, right?
Yeah.
But then I also have people in the gym, like one person who's black belt now too. For Penny was a guy he competed against when I first started in jiu-jitsu, in the lower belts, you know, my blue belts and my purple belts. He was a young kid. He was, you know, I started when I was like 32 years old. He was a young kid coming in at 18, just full of piss and merit. It was just a phenom when he started. Like he was just always really good. And he was always a guy I competed against and just pushed myself.
Right.
Every time I was in the gym, I was training to want to try and fight this kid again and be better than him, because he was that guy. He was like the Connor McDavid on the ice. You know what I mean? He was that guy you're always pushing to beat. You know?
Really?
So it was like every time I went to a tournament, it was like, I hope I get to fight him. Chances are I'm going to lose, but every time I fought him, you'd see he'd get a little better. You'd be like, you know, first time he beat me was in a minute and a half. Second time he beat me, I went 3 minutes.
Right.
Third time he beat me, I went the full distance, but he beat me on a lot of points. You know, I was gauging my success on competing against this young kid that was so good, right? So it was like that push to be, I want to beat that guy. I want to beat that guy. And then finally, it got to the point during COVID. We spoke about it, and the last time we talked, when I switched gyms, I went to the gym this kid trained at.
Okay.
So I was like, why am I pushing myself to be better than this kid? Why don't I train with him and learn from him?
That's
right.
Isn't it just one of those? That's like a life lesson. If you want to be the best, you gotta surround yourself by people that are better than you.
Yeah. So if this kid's beating me every time we step on the mat, why don't I go train and learn from him? Learn the techniques he's doing to me and learning why I'm. So now I'm on his team. I'm training with him. I'm being like, okay, you always caught me in this when we competed. How do I defend that?
Right.
And he worked you through it. We're teammates now. He's not competing against me. So it was like, yeah, let's work through it. Let's see where you were going wrong. Let's fix it.
Is he black belt?
He's a black belt now.
Your weight class?
No, he's bigger than me now. He's, he was a kid when I fought him. So he's kind of grown into his body. He's a little bigger than me. He's a couple weight classes higher than me now.
Is he a weapon still?
It's total weapon. He's a world-class guy. Like he competes, amongst the adults and does really well. Like he's right there at the top echelon of, the top 20 guys in the world, I think personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you get to train with this guy every day. You know what I mean? It'd be like you getting to go on the soccer pitch and train with Alphonso Davies every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going to get better.
You're going to get way better.
So
God.
It's just one of those things. And that's one thing I like about jiu-jitsu is everybody's a family in jiu-jitsu. So no matter where I go, everybody's willing to help and train with you and teach you. And even as a black belt, like I learn stuff from lower belts all the time. Like just because I'm a black belt doesn't mean I know something more than a blue belt, because he may like a certain technique that I don't generally do. Like
right.
maybe he's maybe he's more of a leg attacker and I'm more of a top player guy. So I'll go to a purple belt or a blue belt that's really good at working leg attacks, and I'll learn stuff from him. Even though I'm a black belt, I can learn from guys that are lower than me. So
I guess my next thing is just give a brief description how you got into it. I already know the description, but just a brief one, just so people know, because you got into it quite late.
I got into it late. I was, like I said, we talked about it in the last podcast, I was a wrestler growing up. I was always into sports. I wrestled, and I was on the cusp when I wrestled of making the Olympics, and that was my goal when I was wrestling. I wanted to be an Olympic athlete, and I ran into injury trouble kind of as I was getting to that pinnacle of being able to make the Olympic trials and get that chance to try and push myself to make the Canada team, to have a shot at being on the Olympic team.
Right.
And I ran into some injury troubles. I blew my knees out a couple times, and it just I kind of lost my window, right?
Right.
So I just kind of got out of sports because I tried to go from being a competitive wrestler into coaching wrestling, and I couldn't make that transition. I loved competing so much.
Yeah.
To try and coach people, I had the knowledge to coach people, but I couldn't make that switch because I wanted to be the guy that was on the mat competing. I didn't want to be the guy on the sideline, saying, hey, do this, or, attack here, watch out for the double leg. And it's a tough transition to make. Some people are really good at it. Some people make way better coaches than they do competitors. And that's
they know how to make that team gel. They know how to bring out a player and put in a different person.
How to push somebody a certain way. And there's a lot of people that can do that and can't. Like some people are just born, to be coached and taught and pushed. And that's kind of the type of guy I am. I'm starting as I get older, starting to push myself to transition into that training or that teaching aspect of it. Because as a black belt, I feel they've given me so much over the last 12 years. I want to give it back now.
Right.
So I'm starting to push myself into that. Taking extra time and explaining positions to people, and it's helping my own jiu-jitsu by breaking things down for somebody that may not know that position. So I'm starting to push myself into getting into that training because, like we talked about last time, I eventually would like to open my own school and put myself into that role full time.
That's one of those cool things. Before I started doing content, I didn't when I filmed myself. I didn't like the way I spoke.
Yeah.
I spoke like a moron. I hated it. You see yourself, you're like, oh my God. And this is one of the reasons why I started to do podcasts, is just to ask better questions and speak better.
Yeah.
And it's almost like practice, or coaching, because you get to see yourself and you're like, oh, I think I can do a better job next time. And when you coach, and you're kind of like, you work on your craft in a whole different way, on a different way. So you can work your craft with your hands, and you can work on your craft with your head. And you're like, oh, you're explaining that. You're like, oh, I can't believe I know how well to explain that position.
Yeah.
But my next question. So clearly you're a competitor, right? I want to know, what was your relationship with your dad and your mom, and what was your child like to create such a competitive human being? Because I know, there's certain things that happened in my childhood, and maybe it's just me, but I can only see what happened. And this drove me to be hyper competitive, and clearly to become a black belt, that is hyper focus. And what happened when you're younger that created this drive towards being the best? Because being a world champion in every belt, that's a statement, right? That is not you get one, you lose a round in the world champions, you're out, right?
Yes.
So to have that. What drove you? What was your childhood like to create that kind of mentality?
Well, I think it boils down to, as a kid, I didn't have a dad in my life. My dad left when I was really young. I think I was 2 or 3 years old. My mom and dad separated. My dad didn't have any contact with us as children at all. My mom was a single mom that, worked her ass off to try and provide whatever she could for me and my sister to, make sure we didn't look like scumbags at school. You know how it is for kids, right? So she did whatever she could. And my mom's dad lived with us. And he was probably the most influential person on me. He kind of turned
So your
into
grandfather?
my grandfather, yeah. So he kind of turned into my influential, and he was always that hard-ass, military-style type of person. You know, you eat your 3 square meals a day, you work hard, you respect people, this is the way life is. There's nothing fucking handed to you. If you want something, you go out and you fucking get it. Don't ever expect somebody just to give you something.
Right.
So if you want it, you go out and get it. Like when I was a kid, I'd be away at school, I'd be having fun, trying to do sports, and he'd be in town at the coffee shop, as old people do, drinking, talking to all the people in town, and finding me jobs. So I'd come home and he'd have a list of shit, and he'd be like, yeah, you got to go to this address and cut their fucking grass. You got to go to this address. You got to paint their fence. You got to, and it was just, so he's peddling me but it taught me to work hard and go after things that I wanted. And he's like, you got to understand that your mom is doing everything she can just to keep a roof over your head, food in your belly, clothes on your back. Anything extra you want in life, you got to go get.
Right.
Because she's not going to be able to provide it. She would love to do that for you, but she's not going to be able to do that for you.
Right.
So if you want it, you go out and get it. And this is how you do it. You work hard. You go after things. So I think that drive as a young kid and him just, always pushing me to go after something that I wanted as opposed to just hoping that it just comes my way.
Did he watch you at your sports stuff?
He never got a chance. He watched me a little bit when I first kind of got into wrestling at a young age, but he died when I was around, I think it was 12 or 13. My grandpa passed away.
So he was whooping your ass in shape until...
Yeah, he was always... Anytime he ever did anything around the house, I always had to be there to watch him fix it, hand him tools. He was always that person that was just... When the shit has to get done, you're going to sit here and learn how to do it. Because later in life, you're going to need that.
Yeah.
So he was probably the most influential male figure in my life at a young age and kind of pushed me into that always working hard, which drove, as you've seen in my work ethic, I've always been a hard worker. You're
doing shit that your rank should never have to do, and it gets everyone rallied up. It gets me riled up.
Even when a manager is a rig, I'm always in the trenches with the boys. Like
if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, we blow a line. Shorty's under there because he can fit the best. Yeah. Fits in that line.
I'm not getting, I'll sit in there and get oil on my face with everybody else. We're a team out there, right? And I've always had that feeling that I'm not going to stand there as somebody's boss and yell at them and try and push them to do something that they may not know how to do. Let's get in there. Let's do it together. I'll show you. Kind of the same way my grandpa did to me as a young age. He's like, yeah, I understand you don't know how to fix this lawnmower. We're going to stand here and we're going to do it together. And I'm going to walk you through it and we're going to do it and everybody's going to learn and let's move on, get the job done and let's get going on things. So
you think that particular, your grandfather was the reason why, but you became so competitive? Because clearly, you think it's like almost like a genetic thing, or do you think that?
I think it was the work ethic that he put in it. So, when I finally got into sports, especially wrestling, when I first kind of got out of grade 8 into high school, when I really got into wrestling, I put so much into it. It was like when I was training, I was 100% all the time. I never half-assed anything because in my mind, I always wanted to be the best. I always knew I could be the best.
Right.
So, but also in my mind, I wasn't delusional and to think that best isn't going to come out. I'm not natural. I've got to work at it.
Right.
So I can be the best, but I got to put the work in to be the best. So I'll only get what I put into it. And I think probably from wrestling and always doing that individual sport, it was always anything I do, it's on me. I don't have another team to turn around and say, oh, the reason we lost today is because you hit the post. Sucked. You hit the post on that last point shot. You know what I mean? That was your fault. We lost. I never had nobody to blame. So whatever work I put in showed when I stepped on the mat.
Right.
So it was all on me, and I think that also drove me into that hard work. That mentality is that I got nobody to fall back on. So if I want to be the best, the only person I can blame is me. 100%. I didn't put the work in to be the best.
100%. Did you? Because I know I've been in fights. Fights are electrifying. It's chaos. Your adrenaline. It's one of the favorite things to do as a dude if you like to fight. Because if you win, you're on top of the world. You're like an animal. Now, did you fight a lot when you were younger? Like Like bar fights, like street fights, was it? Because I know wrestling's a lot different than boxing. Wrestling's a lot different than jiu-jitsu. Because you don't, in a fight in the streets, you don't want to go to the ground, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. You might get a boot laid into you. But did you scrap a lot, let's say from 16 till 24?
I put a lot of time in the old scrapping situation, yeah, when I was young. But I think a lot of it come from just being such a small person too, that guys always wanted to pick on me.
Well, I know the feeling.
And
they're testing you.
Yeah, they're testing me. And I was always the type of person that said, whether I win or lose, I'm not going to get pushed around.
Yeah.
So
you're going to feel me the next time.
You're going to know that you don't want to do that to me next time, because I may not win that fight, but I'm going to get a few good licks in, and you're going to know that you were in a fight.
And next time I see you, I'm going to come at you again until you have the fear.
Yeah, trust me, you're not going to beat me like that again, because now I'm going to go. I just lost a fight. I'm going to go and see what I can do to make sure I don't do that again.
Fuck you up.
So yeah, I'd had a lot of fights. Probably a lot I shouldn't have got into. Just you get drinking and things happen, and but I never shied away from one either. So it was, I did do the tussling thing, and it takes a different person. Like there's, like, a lot of people take that shot in the face and they're like, I don't like that, like, it's not, where me, I would like, it's exhilarating. I took a shot in the face and it's like, yeah, yes, we're going. So there's not a lot of people in the world, and that's why you always see like MMA guys. They're a different breed of person. Because for you to want to go in there and physically hurt somebody takes a different style of mentality.
Like Sean Strickland, man, that guy. If he wasn't in the UFC, he'd be like you said, he'd be in jail.
He'd be a gangbanger. He'd be in jail. Because he's off.
He's an animal. Yeah. He's just an animal that belongs in the UFC. Has the perfect pen for him.
Yeah.
And
it gives him his outlet. He gets to just smash on people, and that's just the way it is for him, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like his zen or something.
Yeah.
But so you've been a champion at every belt. How do you mentally prepare for something like that? Because I mean, there's something that's choking. Man, when I was a kid, you're thinking about how not to lose instead of how to win, and consistently belt after belt after belt, and then you have black belt coming up, and that's going to be a bigger round, right? Because there's more competitors in black belt in the world. Yeah,
the black belt is all the other color belts are just a learning process. When you reach black belt, I feel that's when your jiu-jitsu career starts.
Gotcha.
You're now a black belt. Because as a first year black belt, when I step on the mat at Worlds, I could go against a black belt that's been a black belt for 15 years.
He gets pretzel you.
Yeah, he could have been doing jiu-jitsu since he was 5, and now a 4th degree black belt that's been black belt for 10 years or 12 years or whatever it may be, and it's once you reach that level, it's the beginning. It's like you are now in, say, the NHL, or you are now in the World League of Soccer, and you're with the upper echelon of everybody, and you gotta maybe have to fight that Conor McDavid every day, and that's just the way it is, right? So.
But how did you prepare mentally to win all those gold medals on the way to this journey? Because, I mean, I've noticed in my life there's people that have a loser mentality, and I'm not saying they lose because they just have this you can hear when they speak, they're like, oh man, like everything bad happens to me, blah 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 blah. But how do you consistently get the gold? Like, what do you do? Do you meditate? Do you just say, I did it on the mat? You're just like, well, it's gonna be what it is. I'm just gonna go give them hell.
No, it's just, I think the biggest thing is mentally, I just hate to lose. I hate the feeling of losing. So I don't want that feeling. So whatever I have to do prior to going in and competing, not only do I love to compete and I love that feeling of competing, I don't want that feeling of losing either. So it drives you to put in more work leading up to that, because I've been in those big spotlight situations and I've ended up with the 3rd, and I've ended up, just missing a medal. And that feeling of losing is way worse than anything I just put in the gym. Those feelings of getting tapped 100 times in the gym and learning certain positions and working through things that you want to do when it comes to competition time, that feeling of losing sucks because, you know, I just put in, say, a solid 6-week training camp before I went to compete at Worlds, and I put in all my heart, sweat, soul, blood, tears. I gave up time with my family. I did all this stuff to achieve this goal, and then not make it is the worst feeling in the world. You know what I mean? It's so hard, and it's like you don't want to feel that. So I think it's that drive that I'm willing to do whatever it takes leading up to that. Because I don't like that feeling of losing.
Okay.
I hate it so much. And it's funny because my daughter is getting the same way. Like she does cheer and things like that. And when her team loses at cheer, she's just like, she's so beat up at herself.
Right.
And I'm like, and I just tell her, I'm like, if you want to win every time, you got to put in the work. You can't, you got to do that extra stuff. Stretching downstairs, you got to do those extra reps of learning your positions where you got to be and your dance routine. You got to put in that extra time because you even though you're in a team event, maybe you were the one that misstepped that the judges saw. Maybe that was you that spun the wrong way, and so just because your team lost doesn't mean it sucks. And
welcome to obsession.
Welcome to being upset. That's life.
Or no, obsession. If you want something, it's like the obsession. Is you start to really, like, what I've noticed is, let's say you want to make $1 million, or you want to, make a content channel. Like, every year it's just like, okay, can I do more? It's like, yeah, you can. It's like, okay. And then you start to have to remove things from your life because there's only so much time in a day. Yeah. And then you start to get obsessed. Like, and like one of the things that, like you said, like you're training this hard to win, and then you lose. It's like soul destroying. I've like put like 2-3 weeks into a video. I poured my heart and soul in this video, like everything into it, and it was a flop. And it's just like, this is brutal. And it's just like, whatever, man. You just go back to the drawing board. And I think that's the thing where I always ask the same question, like when I have those moments, like, oh my God, I didn't get what I was aiming for. It's just like, what else would I do? I guess I'm just gonna take the next step and just keep inching towards the next goal, the next fight, the next moment, or whatever achievement that I want to acquire. And I think it's those losses that really will, first of all, separate the winners and the losers. And it's almost like extra fire, It's like, oh fuck, I'll find a way to win. I'm gonna find a way to win.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like mentally, guys, and it's kind of an addiction too, you know what I mean? As people always talk about those addiction personalities, that feeling of winning, especially after you do it a couple times, is addicting.
Oh yeah.
Like that feeling of, the first time I ever won a gold medal in an IBJJF tournament, I was like, this is the greatest feeling ever. Because it brought me back to, back to my wrestling days when I was winning at high levels, and I'm like, that feeling is so good. And then thinking I was never going to be able to have that feeling again, thought my wrestling career was over. I'm never going to be able to grapple again. I'm never going to be able to do anything like that because I'm all old now. I'm busted up. To get back into something and then be successful at it and get that feeling again, it was like shoots you back to your childhood. And
to be one of the top dogs too. Yeah, like, it feels good to be one of the best.
And it was like, man, I can still do this. Even at my age, I still got a shot at this, and it just switches your mindset, and away you go. And it changed the course of my life. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing,
because that moment is probably one of those key moments in your life, really, at 32 when you got into it and you won that first medal. Because like you just said, you switched to everything. That's pretty badass. Yeah. Pretty badass moment when you find something you're so passionate about where you actually rehaul your life.
Yeah, like it totally kind of reset my mindset. Like, because when I wasn't doing anything and I started working rigs, and you know how things are on the rigs, everybody's running on 100 mile an hour. You're drinking all the time, you're partying, you're blowing money, you're just doing whatever. Not really having any goals in life. You're just kind of floating through and doing whatever.
Into the abyss.
Whatever. And just taking whatever comes your way. So to kind of commit myself to something and then do that first tournament and then be successful, it was like, boom. It just kind of flipped that switch and was like, why am I doing all this other garbage shit? Like,
right? Because
I remember what that feeling is like to win something and go back to my childhood and all that work I did back then. And I was like, I can do this again. Like, why am I pissing my life away on a brown ball here and doing nothing with my life and just kind of floating through life? Let's set a goal and let's do something. Like, I can obviously be successful at it.
I think that's one of the things that I find with a lot of people is they're aimless in life. And they just do those whatever regurgitation of like liquor, weed, sports, and it's just like, so yeah, Ryan, what do you? And you can't even have a conversation with them. I can't have an in-depth conversation with them because it's just like, hey man, what are you doing? It's just like nothing, just hanging around.
Yeah.
It's like, are you passionate about anything? No. What do you do? I just exist, And I think deep down, I think like in their soul, it kills them. Because being aimless sucks. Like I've been aimless before, and it's nice to have that direction, that purpose, that goal. Like there's a reason to wake up. There's a reason to get up at 6 is to achieve something. I think that's like what's especially in Canada, because it's so easy now to be here just to exist. That I think that's where all this depression, sadness, emptiness, drug use, lack of community, because you're in a community. Like you're part of a fighting community, and that community, you have to uphold certain standards to be there. Like you can't come in there half pissed. That's not gonna fly. And I think that should be taught in school, how to find out my purpose, because once you have that, you're a wholly different person. And that's a prime example. Like I'm a prime example. As soon as I knew 25, I bought that piece of land. It was like, how do I build a house here? And everything was designed in my life to achieve that. And then when it was, it's just like, this is the greatest feeling ever.
Yeah.
This is the coolest thing ever. Which brings me to my next question. Your view on discipline. Because discipline is where you get wins. Discipline is where you succeed. If you are looking to become a millionaire, you're looking to achieve something that is exceptional. It's discipline. What's your view on it, and how do you? What does your day plan look like with that discipline?
Discipline is probably the key, component in anything. Like
in anything.
Yeah, it's like how much discipline are you gonna give yourself to achieve whatever goal that may be. And sometimes you just got to be realistic in that discipline, because you're not going to be good at something right away. So it's like, okay, am I gonna commit myself to 10 minutes a day? I'm just gonna start out slow, commit myself to doing something. Like I got this from you. I've always wanted to learn Portuguese, and you were obviously learning Spanish. So I started to commit myself to 10 minutes a day on Duolingo, just learning the odd words here and there.
Right.
I'm on like a 2-week streak. I'm like, you know what I mean? So it's just that discipline.
534 days.
Yeah, it's just getting up every day and just spending 10 minutes and learning, 10 new Portuguese words, whatever. So it's just, you got to be realistic in your goal and how much discipline it's going to take to reach that goal. And you need a purpose, because if you don't have like a reason, like if there's no reason, if I didn't have a piece of land in Ecuador, like you're going to learn Portuguese because you're probably planning to go to Brazil to do tournaments there. I would love to, yeah. Right? And then that's a reason why you would learn it. But if you're just learning it just for learning its sake, I can't do it. Like I need Spanish right now to exist, because I'm planning to move there and to build an empire, right? Live in the Spanish culture and learn the language. Right? And I think that's the important thing about discipline is if you need to have your why, and then like when you got that gold medal, like that's a pretty huge why. And then you got a black belt 12 years later. It's like fucking right. That's a gold standard on how you get it done. Yeah. And it's too, like my discipline level changes as it goes on. Like I know every year I've got Worlds coming up, but it's a year away. So my discipline level 2 weeks after I've just finished the Worlds is not the same as it is 6 weeks prior to that Worlds. Because I know I've got some time. I know, okay, I'm going to take it. I'm just going to, now that Worlds is done, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to learn some new positions. And I just start working through some things at that minimal discipline. Okay, right. I'm just going to make sure I go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe twice a week. Right. Whatever it is. I'm going to because I've now been pushing my body so hard and pushing for this one goal. Now that it's after, I'm still going to be consistent, but maybe not as consistent. Instead of going 5 days a week, I'm going 3. Right? So you just kind of back off a little bit, but you always got to keep that consistency, whether it's, you never want to stop fully. I never want to come off a world and not go back to the gym on Monday. Because if I take that time and I miss 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, like you just know, like going to the gym. Anybody that's been at the gym regularly and then they miss a month of the gym.
Oh my God.
That first day you try and talk your body into going back and working out is one of the hardest things you do.
It's awful.
And it's the same with anything. So that's why consistency is key. Whether I'm only doing it once a week or twice a week, as long as I'm still going, maybe in small increments, it's going to push myself. And then I know I've got this goal at the end of the year that as I build towards that, my consistency goes from 2 days a week to 3 days a week to 4 days a week to 5 days a week. Now I'm 6 days a week, 1 day rest. You know what I mean? Leading up to the actual tournament. And you start watching your diet. And you start disciplining yourself, knowing that this goal is coming. And you never want to dive in head first and be like, I got to discipline myself. I got to go to the gym 5 hours a day. Because you'll never stay with it.
Yeah.
And I tell anybody that, like, when you start a diet or whatever it might be, don't go all in on the diet first day. Just start small. Say, okay, I'm going to start eating more vegetables this week.
And cut out some sugars.
Cut out some sugar. So the first week you just, you start eating a vegetable every meal and you cut out your chips at night. And then the second week you add a little more discipline where you go, okay, well now I'm going to cut out my breads and things like that. And I'm not going to have a dessert anymore. So it's just like, and then finally, you're going to build yourself and your mentality into being like, okay, now I'm fully disciplined into what I'm doing. I'm committed to this diet. I've just put in 4 weeks of my time building up to this moment. Why would I quit now?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So let's go for it.
Did you ever have slumps? And when you do have those slumps, how do you get your... Because I notice I don't get slumps too often. But sometimes, you start... Like when you look back, like I had a slump there. But you have to be conscious enough to see that you're slumping and losing some discipline. Do you have that ever? And then how do you get yourself back up to... Because that's why it's called discipline. You start to blah, 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 and you're conscious enough to realize what's going on. Like, man, Ryan, like, you're missing days. What's happening in your life? And I write down my thoughts. I've written down my thoughts for about 10 years. So I always write down my thoughts, and then it's just like, okay, we're having da-da-da-da. We got to do this and this. We got to get back up to baseline. How do you deal with that? And do you notice that happening, and what makes that happen?
Yeah, it happens all the time. And I find a lot of it, especially because of my work. I'm in and out of the gym all the time, dude, because I have to travel for work. And I'm away from it, say, for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And a lot of times at work, things get busy. I always try to work out a little bit while I'm at work. I know I can't do jiu-jitsu, but I always try to watch a little bit, on the computer, try and watch some techniques, just visually learn. Always try and do a little bit of a workout every day. But sometimes you get busy, you get tired, you'll miss a couple days, miss 3 days. And then, to try and get back into that is tough. Sometimes I've been known to slump and be off for like 2 weeks. I get at work, I'm tired, I don't want to do nothing, job's shitty or fucking, mine's just not in it, you know what I mean? You're just like, I got other shit going, I'm having some trouble in family, whatever it might be. And then the easiest thing for me is when I get back, I love jiu-jitsu so much that I get back from work, and the first thing I want to do is get into that gym. And then you go to that gym, and you get your fucking ass handed to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you get people that have been there being consistent, lower belts than you, but they're consistent every day. They're in shape, they feel good. I've come in after, being away for 3 weeks. I haven't worked out in 2.5 weeks. I'm in this fucking big slump, and you get your fucking ass handed to you by a blue belt.
Fire.
And you're just like, fuck. You just know that consistency has to be there, or I'm not going to be successful. And then it puts that fire in you again, and you're like, fuck, I got to get my diet back on check. I got to start going to the gym again. I got to start going. So now I get a little more consistent. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to throw myself into this. You start going every day. I may not be able to train as hard as I want to, but at least I'm there every day. I may not do the rolling that day, but I'm there and I'm doing the drills. Right. But my body's not in shape to roll. So I might just, let's go drill. And then I'll pick somebody after everybody's rolling, and I'll just, do some more drills or whatever till the end of class. But you got to just start going again and feed yourself into that. But it's that humbling experience of going there, and then you're like, oh man,
I suck.
Like
I came back.
But you just know in your head that if I just stayed with, even though I was tired at work, if I had just done that half hour, 45-minute workout,
yeah, you'd be tired.
I wouldn't feel as shitty as I do right now.
No.
And you're just like, that was my own fault. I feel shitty right now, and I got beat up right now because I was fucking lazy.
Yeah.
So it's on me.
100%.
So it's that drive of just, wanting to be your best you can all the time, I think is what it is. And it's just...
And I find when you work on the rigs too, because like after about, like me, after 21 to 25 days, I decline. Like mentally, like everyone does. Everyone starts getting short with each other. And you're doing 50-day hitches sometimes. So that means you're halfway through and like I'm on decline and I can't, my mental brain power is that of a potato. It's terrible. I can solve problems until then, and then it's just like, I'm trying to figure out this problem. I'm just too tired. Because, our 14-hour days, you're driving back and forth from the rigs. It's minus 40. You're trying to keep everything rolling. And I notice myself, I start to drink more. I start to eat shittier food. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Like, life sucks.
You put yourself in that self-depression, and it's tough to get out.
Yeah, and then, and that's the tough thing about the rigs. It pays good, creates an incredible environment for your family, but it's just, when you start doing long hitches, it does take a hit on you mentally. But my next question, you ready for this?
Ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, who do you think the greatest fighter is in the UFC and in boxing? Who's your favorite fighter? I'm a big fan of Sean Strickland. Like, he's just such a psychotic animal. Like, I like that. There's that Francis Ngannou when he got in, and there's O'Malley. There's so many great, exciting fighters right now.
There is in the UFC. Like I said, I am a fan of the UFC, but I look at UFC in a different way than a lot of people, just because I understand a lot of the martial arts that they're doing. Like, a lot of people think, oh, they're on the ground, they're not doing anything, they're just hugging each other. I understand the little techniques that they're doing while they're down there. I can see the grip he's trying to make. I can see how he's countering something, and so to me, watching that is a lot more exciting than a lot of people would see it, because I understand what's going on, right?
And the discipline is to get to that.
Like I said, I love the Sean O'Malley's. I love the guys that are out there making a show of it.
He does make a show. Like, can you imagine being that talented that, he doesn't want rounds to end? Like, he'll knock someone down and won't beat his ass in just so he can get more fight time. But
I do also really love the guys that you can see that are fully technical, well-rounded, on the feet, on the ground. Your guys like a Justin Gaethje. He's just a tough dude. He's well-rounded. He hits hard. He's got decent grappling. I just love them guys that are just a full-rounded fighter, because you can tell, Dustin Poirier, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, that guy has, always been right on the cusp of being a champion, and I've watched his career from the time he was, got started, and it's just like, the leaps and bounds he's made from the first time he stepped in the octagon to now is like, I consider him one of the best fighters to ever, do the well-rounded fighters in the UFC.
Because he's constant, and he's humble too.
And he's humble.
Because he took down McGregor, right? I think he lost McGregor, and then he took him down.
He's beat some of the best guys in the world. His boxing is phenomenal. He's got a decent ground game. His counter wrestling is great. He's more of a stand-up fighter, but he's understood his game well enough that he turned himself into such a great counter wrestler that he can get himself back to a position that he wants to be, which is hard for a lot of people to do.
When you're fighting on his terms, right?
Yeah, you get a guy like Conor McGregor, who's a phenomenal stand-up fighter, but you get him on the ground, he sucks.
Yeah.
He's shitty on the ground.
He was, man.
And for a guy that can't get back to his feet, you take away his entire game.
Yeah.
So when a Conor McGregor fights a Habib is so good on the ground, but not very good on his feet. So as soon as Habib takes him to the ground, Conor McGregor's going to lose that fight.
It was
every day. Every day he's going to lose that fight.
He mauled him. Mauled him like a savage.
If McGregor could have learned to counter wrestler well enough to keep it on his feet, I think he would have pieced.
But no one was able to counter wrestle Khabib.
Yeah.
Because he fought bears. He literally fought grizzly bears.
But that's something that a guy like Dustin Poirier did. He knew he was a phenomenal boxer, and same with a guy like Max Holloway. Same way, he honed his counter wrestling skills and knows enough on the ground to get himself back to his feet to where he wants to be in a fight.
Yeah.
And I enjoy guys like that.
Nice. What about in the boxing world? We got Mayweather, unstoppable force.
Boxing world, the best guy that ever is by far Mark Tyson.
Yeah, I would agree. He's entertaining.
He's very, very.
Man, was like I keep watching his highlights and they are just phenomenal.
But out of the boxers that are actually still active, I'm a Canelo fan. I like Canelo.
Canelo. Okay. So what about what do you think about Ngannou in the
I think
boxing?
Ngannou.
You think that was kind of a joke when he went in there, or do you think it's?
I think Ngannou is a true boxer. I don't think Ngannou should ever do MMA again, personally.
No.
I think if he focused his career on boxing, he could probably be a world champion at boxing. He's got the physical prowess to be a strong heavyweight. He's got punching power. If he could just hone his skills to be a boxer.
Because he got whooped against Anthony.
Yeah, because he doesn't understand boxing.
Right.
You know what I mean? The rounds are different. It's a different cardio. It's a different, it's
like chess.
Yeah, so you've got to learn the game.
Yeah.
I think if he committed himself to boxing, because he's got the physical prowess and the punching power to be very good if he learned the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
So I think he should get out of MMA and fully commit to boxing. I think he could probably be a world champ in 5 years.
That's wild. How old is he now? What is he, 20?
He's pushing 40. I think he's in his late 30s. Tyson Fury is up there too. He's in his late 30s. He's just your homeboy tough guy.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing appealing. Like physically looking at him, you wouldn't think he's just this phenomenal athlete. He's just an average looking Joe.
He's just a farmer.
But he's just a tough guy. He understands the game really well. He moves side to side well. He doesn't get hit a whole bunch. Like he understands the sport.
Yeah.
And you got guys like that in every sport that just are so good at understanding the game and the rule set that they excel in it. Even though maybe physically they're not the best, they don't have the best techniques, but they understand the game.
Yeah.
And you find that in Jiu Jitsu too. People that understand, there's different rule sets in Jiu Jitsu depending on what kind of tournament you're doing. There's point systems, there's submission only things, there's ADCC rules. So they got different rule sets, and people that are very good at a certain rule set, like a Gordon Ryan, who's probably bar none the best grappler in the world. Everybody would probably say Gordon Ryan's the best, by far. He's probably the greatest to ever do it. But he is superiorly good at one rule set. And the reason he is so good, because he understands that rule set so well, he's so good at it, that he's been so good that he makes the rules now. So anybody that wants to fight him, he's like, well, we're doing it under this rule set. So somebody that comes in that's generally a point jiu-jitsu fighter, looking to score points and looking for positioning, they come in to fight Gordon Ryan, and now he's a submission only. He's used to doing an hour match. Like he understands the rule set really well. He knows how to manage his time. He knows how to manage his cardio, and he knows he can put himself into positions where it doesn't matter because you're not going to get any points on me because it's a submission only fight.
Right.
So he's kind of built himself, and it's smart on his part. He's built himself to be so good at a certain rule set that anybody that wants to fight him has to do it under his rules.
I like that.
And it's the same thing in boxing, like Mayweather. Nobody fights Mayweather unless you fight under his rules. And he's got to have certain gloves. He's got to have certain round times. He's got to have. Everything's got to be.
He owned that.
He owns it, and he was kind of one of the first to ever do it.
An incredible businessman, showman. Like props to him. Like he's not wouldn't really like his style because he's very like counterattack. But man, was he everything he did was smart.
Yeah.
And how he built his boxing empire. Yeah.
Right. But that's the thing. If you wanted to fight Mayweather, you had to do it in his rule set. You had to wear the gloves he wanted you to wear. You had to, or you didn't fight him, and that's just the way it was.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty impressive. So, next question. Are you a man of faith? You believe in a God, higher power, and have you have any specific examples of when that higher power helped you?
I'm not a religious man by any means. Like I've never really. I believe faith is something that is needed in the world. I necessarily don't have it. Like I don't believe that when I die, I'm gonna be ascended into a higher power and live on by spirit forever. It's not something I've ever believed in, but I do believe faith has a place in the world because some people need it. Some people need that thought of, okay, I need this higher power looking over me to make me be a better person. So I do kind of believe in faith that way and religion in that way. I don't knock anybody for ever being religious. I think if that's what you need in your life to get you where you need to go, then by all means. Like my daughter, like we're not a religious family, but she likes to go to youth groups and learn a little bit about God. And she believes in a higher power, and I don't. But if you do, I'll support you in whatever way you are. Because if that's what you need in your life to succeed, and that's what you want to be to stay on the right path and do what you need to do in your life, then by all means, I'm all for it. Sweet. So, but I've always believed in my higher power is hard work.
Gotcha.
You commit yourself, and my higher power is if I want something, I got to go work for it.
I like it. I like it. Okay, you're getting older, shorty. We know it. Something you can't fight. Like I know I can. I'm 21 until the day I die, but you're getting older. You're looking back at your life. Obviously, we know you found your purpose. It's Jiu Jitsu. What are you going to do as you continue to get older? How are you going to continue projecting this purpose of Jiu Jitsu? Like, what are your plans to do this for the next, let's say, I think you're 44 now or 45?
48.
48, almost 50. So what's the next 20, 30 years? Like when you visualize the future, I know you would like to get a gym, but what does the future look like for that particular purpose?
Like Jiu-Jitsu will always be in my life. It's something that I will do for the rest of my life. I may not do it as consistently as I do now. Competitively, I probably know I've only got another 4 to 5 years of me. It's hard on my body. I know father time isn't nice to anybody, and my injuries last longer. I get tweaks, my elbow gets hurt. I know I don't heal in 2-3 days anymore. It takes 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I'm always nursing an injury of some sort. My knees are busted up. You know what I mean? So it's something I know I'm not going to be able to put the effort in that I need to be successful competing in anymore because my body's just not going to allow me to do it. So I do have that in my mind that's why I've started leaning towards, I want to get it more into a teaching role. I want to be able to start, mentoring the younger kids coming up and teaching them what I know, even if it's aspect of maybe not on the mat in a technique, but how I prepared for a tournament or how mentally what my thoughts were leading into something and how I can make them maybe control their nerves before they go on to a high stage tournament, things like that. And then, like I said, open a school and hopefully do that for the rest of my life, teaching the school until. When do
you think, because I know we talked last year, is the date getting closer? Because I think you said 5 years. Did it get to 3 years now that you're a black belt? Because I know once you get that idea, like it's amazing the power of an idea. Because I have ideas, and it's just like, how do I make this happen?
Yeah, that gym idea is there, and like I said, I would like to do it within the next probably 4 to 5 years. Like I said, I just received my black belt. I'm only like 8 or 9 months into being a black belt, and I got Worlds coming up at the end of August here. I want to go at it. I've got some other goals prior to opening the gym. I want to try and win and be successful at a black belt. There's some competitions I want to do. I want to see how I land in that pool of athletes, and then go from there. So it's the next couple of years. I know I got 2-3 years of good solid competing left in me before my body probably breaks down and I can't put in the effort that I want to be successful.
You think that's a limiting belief that you're putting in your mind?
No, I just know father time is going to get me, and it's not that. Like I said before, I hate losing, and I just know my body's not going to allow me to put the effort in to be successful.
To be a champion.
To be a champion.
Gotcha. Okay, so you got 3 years of championship, and then it'd be more like just competing.
Yeah, and if I do compete, it's going to be a few one-offs just to get feeling on the mat. You know, my expectations of maybe getting the gold medal aren't going to be as high. I'm still going to be able to put some effort into it, and I'm always going to want to be successful. But if I don't win that gold medal, it's not going to destroy my life like it does now. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like in my head, I just want to be the best, and that's just the way I've always been. So I just know Father Time is going to get me, and it's something that, yeah, I'll probably still compete even at an older age, but the expectations aren't going to be as high.
Right.
Like, I'm always going to want to win. It's just in me. But if I do lose, that loss isn't going to kill me like it does now.
Gotcha. So my final question, this is it. Are you ready? You seen these videos? There's a person lying on their deathbed. They got minutes to live before they die. Now, imagine yourself, you're there, and I'm there with my little camera, and I said, Shorty, you're about to die in about 5 minutes. What's your biggest regret in your life?
My biggest regret in my life?
You know, you just lived a full life, about to be dead.
Was
eaten by worms.
Probably wasting, you know, probably 10 years of my life when I got out of wrestling and before I found Jiu Jitsu. Just that whole period of my life where I was young, I was able to probably just, you know, grab the world by the balls and go for it. And I spent it just drinking and pissing time away. You know what I mean? Because as I got older and I got into Jiu Jitsu, you know, that from the age of, say, 22 to, you know, 25, I just pissed those years away, which are prime years and to go out, travel, go for things, go for a goal in your life. You know, you've got all the energy in the world to do it. You've got, you know, nothing in your life holding you back. You haven't got families yet. You haven't got nothing. That's why I respect guys like you. At a young age, you went after goals. You knew, okay, I got from 20 to, say, 25 years old. I don't have a family yet. I bought some land in Ecuador. I'm going to build a fucking house. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to build that house. So your goals in life changed. You weren't, you know, chasing women around. You weren't boozing your life away. You weren't just...
I only had about from 18 to about 24. Boozing and women.
Yeah.
Hard.
So, yeah, that was probably my biggest regret, was wasting those moments in my life. Because, you know, coming from being such a sports-oriented guy and committing a lot of my life to sports and then being like, I'm never going to be able to do this again. I probably could have did it again. But I was so depressed at the fact that, you know, people said, oh, you know, doc said, oh, you might not want to do wrestling anymore. Okay, well, maybe I can't do wrestling, but why can't I do something else?
Like, that's what happened to me.
My life's not over. I'm 20 years old.
I think it is depression, because I trained my whole life to become a professional soccer player, and I was so far away from the mark, and I just didn't have that mental winningness. Like, I always wanted to win, but I was too scared to lose, which is not the winning attitude. It's like, I'm going to win or I don't want to lose, and I don't want to lose. And then when soccer kind of ended, I just went to booze and chasing women, and I just traveling, which was great because you learn a lot of cultures, but it almost is like you're like, my purpose is done. What else is there to do now? And I think that is like I said, when you lose that purpose, the distractions of booze, liquor, and drugs start to engulf you.
Take over your life, yeah.
And you're just like, well, what else am I gonna do? What am I gonna do right now? Because I know what I'm gonna do after this, and you know what you're gonna do after this. You're gonna go train. You have a purpose, you have a schedule, you have a regiment. But when I didn't have that, man, I know what I was going to do? I was going to grab some beer. I was going to call my beer buddies. Because I had nothing to do.
Drink some beers and wake up tomorrow hungover.
Oiler games coming on. Like now, like I like watching the Oilers with certain people. But like, if I have all my shit done, like it's like a treat. Liquor is a treat now. And like, I love drinking. But it's a treat after I accomplish what needs to be done in the day. Because I know what needs to be done, you know? And I think it is that depression. Because, man, it hit me, too. When I failed at becoming getting on Team Canada or anything like that, I didn't meet the mark, you know?
And I think that's what slumped me in, too, is because I was like, you know, my whole goal in life was I wanted to be in the Olympics, and then that was in my mind, it got taken away from me. And I'm like, well, if I can't do that, I'm not going to fucking do anything. You know what I mean? And that depression, that mentality of just like, well, why do anything now? Fuck it. Like, everything I've ever worked for is now gone.
What a waste.
What a waste.
What a fucking waste.
I might as well just start boozing and having fun, chasing women, doing whatever, working and just lounging through life. And I never had any purpose. So
yeah. Well, sick podcast, Shorty.
That was pretty good.
Thanks, buddy. And that is the end of the Where's America podcast. Thanks for tuning in.